the Rabbi Shmuley Botea and the World Values Network with regards to the upcoming 9th Annual Champions of Jewish Values International Awards Gala. I accept your kind offer to speak, and it's a great honor to be here. This year's gala is going to focus on the theme of honoring Black History Month, which is very important to me. And many of you appreciate that there's been a long friendship between the Jewish people and African Americans, and part of it's because they're faith-based groups. And the collaboration that's come about occurs because people in both groups respect that there's something bigger than just us. And given the state of our national and even global affairs, I think it's really important to strengthen the ties between all communities, but in particular, pillars of American society like the African American community and the Jewish community. So I thought I'd take a few seconds to comment on why this has become such an important part of my show, because I've been talking about health disparities on the program for years, but it came to a head this year as I began to examine some of the data. And there have been wonderful contributions to this process. Ray Dalio just gave $50 million to my hospital, New York Presbyterian, Columbia, in order to study health disparities. There have been very kind donations like Mike Bloomberg giving $100 million to be split up amongst 4 predominantly Black medical schools in this country, because we need to train more Black doctors. So let me explain why this topic has gained so much credibility and so much support. First off, the impact of COVID on the African American and Latino communities has been dramatic. I mean, it's probably twice the complication rates of getting COVID-19, in part because a lot of folks in these communities were on the front lines. They were infected early on. I want them to be in the clinical trials to study the vaccines, and they have actually been included in the Pfizer trial and will be in future trials as well. But a lot of times there's a hesitancy amongst Blacks in being involved in clinical trials for understanding reasons, because they've been taken advantage of. It's unfortunate, but it's real, and I understand it. And it's true, I think, of many groups who feel like they're on the outside. But the disparity that we're seeing in health outcomes with Blacks is not explainable by poverty alone. So although poverty contributes to all groups of individuals and getting poor health, it's not the only explanation. And it turns out that even affluent Black patients don't seem to be able to buy white quality health care. It has remained stubbornly out of reach. And I'm passionate about this topic because as an American, I think we all agreed that we need a level playing field. No one's going to hand you the gold trophy or the blue ribbon. You have to earn success, but you deserve to be on the playing field, because guess what? If you're not on the field, you can't win the game. And so how do we get everybody out on the playing field? Because part of our goal as Americans and part of our promise, the American ideal, is that everybody gets to contribute as much as they possibly can. And you should be able to achieve as much as your God-given abilities would allow. Not that we're all ever going to be the same. I'm never going to be able to play basketball like some of my heroes, but I can operate on the heart better than a lot of other people could have. So I know where I can succeed, where I won't. I get to be as best as I can in each of those categories. Even if I'm not better than everybody else, I get to try. And I think that's true for everybody who can hear my voice right now. So how do we help fix the healthcare problem that has remained stubbornly out of reach for so many? Well, I understand the hesitancy of Blacks within the healthcare system. The Tuskegee syphilis experiments, the Mississippi appendectomy trials, these were overuse of hysterectomies, basically, in that project. It's shameful, but it has scarred generations of Blacks who look at the healthcare system and clinical trials and new opportunities like vaccinations with skepticism. You would too. And in the Jewish community, I think there's understandable skepticism as well. I remember taking care when I was training at Columbia with a Jewish woman whose last doctor was a Nazi Mengele, who had maimed her. And so she, not surprisingly, wasn't too happy about talking to doctors who seem so smart and intelligent and but don't always have the caring gene. It gets beaten out of us at times. So there are challenges that historically medicine has faced and has created for itself. But let's go over the numbers in the Black community. Black women are 243%, I looked it up, 243% more likely to die from childbirth-related causes. 2.5 times more likely in this country than white women. And Black infants are roughly twice as likely to die under the care of a white physician than under the care of a Black physician. Think about that. Why are Black infants dying more often when they get cared for by white doctors than Black doctors? I don't think that doctors are purposely racist, but there is implicit bias. that is present in all of us. We just don't ask the extra questions sometimes. We don't understand as well, or we're not asked questions that are appropriate because there's awkwardness in the cultural barriers that arise, especially between races. Now, black men, just to add one more factor, are 50 to 75% more likely to check their blood pressure to see if they have diabetes and to get preventive care if they got a black doctor. Somehow, the cultural bond that these groups have to each other allow them to speak about topics more effectively than if someone from an outside group gets involved. In fact, I wrote an op-ed on this goal we have, and I've been talking about on the show the idea that we need more black doctors. In fact, the More Black Doctors campaign has gained a lot of credibility and following, in part because people didn't realize some of the facts I just mentioned. And the campaign's main goal is to change the current percentage of doctors who are black, which is about 5%, and move it towards the 13% of the population that is black. It doesn't have to be exactly 13%, but we ought to move in that direction. And the percentage of black doctors really hasn't budged much in the last few years. We can do better. And one of the biggest barriers that I'm witnessing is that young black people don't think medicine is a career for them because they don't have any role models in their family and their community that they can look towards. So by getting black doctors who are currently in the system and doing well to speak to black medical students and getting them to speak to the black undergrads and black high school students, and we use my Kids Foundation Health Corps to help with this process, we can make a dent with this More Black Doctors campaign. And I'll tell you, because I'm in high schools around the country with Health Corps, and again, Health Corps is our foundation that copies the Peace Corps' effort to harvest the energy of reaching college grads. And instead of putting them in Africa to build dams, you put them in high schools around America to provide mentoring to kids, especially kids of color in underserved areas. But we can get those young kids to think that they have a much bigger opportunity than they ever thought possible, that there's a much broader vista of opportunities than anyone's ever shared with them. They'll go into medicine. They won't all become heart doctors. Sometimes they're going to become nurses or orderlies or the technicians, but they have the ability to find jobs that are high quality, well-paying, and open up opportunities for themselves and people in their families. And I think that's one of the major benefits of #MoreBlackDoctors. So please join the campaign. It speaks very much to Jewish values and much to what Rabbi Shmuley speaks to frequently, because we have a desire, a need, and an obligation to think bigger than just ourselves. This is just one more good example to invest your effort. God bless you for being here today, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of the program.